Please make sure to register at the ballroom entrance. As a safety precaution, we remind all our attendees to please comply with the minimum public health and safety requirements. If possible, please keep your masks on at all times. Coffee stations are open at the back of the ballroom. Feel free to fix yourself a cup or two while waiting for the program to begin. As we all start up a morning filled with a series of informative topics and presentations among experts from various sectors of the electric power industry here and abroad, we encourage your active participation in our discussions. Feel free to submit your questions through our virtual Q&A platform, Slido, by accessing the website via QR code placed on your respective tables. Once again, good morning and welcome to EMX 2023. Our program will begin in a few minutes.
Aboitiz Power has been driving change for a better world. It's been a long and challenging road, but with every step forward, we've made sure the businesses and communities we serve have been able to grow and flourish. We envision a world where vibrant communities have built their homes and businesses in a thriving environment. To make that world a reality, we are committed to serving the people by providing a reliable power supply at a reasonable and competitive price, while taking on the responsibility for the growth, wellness, and prosperity of the environment and the many communities that rely on us. Over the many decades we've been around, we've watched the world shift and change, and our success to this point has come, in part, from our constant desire to grow and innovate. The adoption of newer, more efficient, and more effective technologies in the name of progress is a part of who we are and why we're here to stay. Here at Aboitiz Power, we greatly respect the value and importance of the environment. Cleanergy, our brand for renewable energy sources, has become a significant part of our operations, and we continue to be on the lookout for opportunities in the renewable energy space while seeking ways to preserve and enrich the environment. We've long since recognized the incredible potential for kindness, compassion, and community in the millions of lives we've touched over our centuries-long journey. We take great pride in the care and service we provide to these people. To see their communities thriving is our greatest joy and success. Aboitiz Power, driving change for a better world. Avoidance Power has been driving change for a better world. It's been a long and challenging road, but with every step forward, we've made sure the businesses and communities we serve have been able to grow and flourish. We envision a world where vibrant communities have built their homes and businesses in a thriving environment. To make that world a reality, we are committed to serving the people by providing a reliable power supply at a reasonable and competitive price, while taking on the responsibility for the growth, wellness, and prosperity of the environment and the many communities that rely on us. Over the many decades we've been around, we've watched the world shift and change, and our success to this point has come, in part, from our constant desire to grow and innovate. The adoption of newer, more efficient, and more effective technologies in the name of progress is a part of who we are and why we're here to stay. Here at Avoidance Power, we greatly respect the value and importance of the environment. Cleanergy, our brand for renewable energy sources, has become a significant part of our operations, and we continue to be on the lookout for opportunities in the renewable energy space while seeking ways to preserve and enrich the environment. We've long since recognized the incredible potential for kindness, compassion, and community in the millions of lives we've touched over our centuries-long journey. We take great pride in the care and service we provide to these people. To see their communities thriving is our greatest joy and success. Avoidance Power, driving change for a better world. Avoidance Power has been driving change for a better world. It's been a long and challenging road, but with every step forward, we've made sure the businesses and communities we serve have been able to grow and flourish. We envision a world where vibrant communities have built their homes and businesses in a thriving environment. To make that world a reality, we are committed to serving the people by providing a reliable power supply at a reasonable and competitive price, while taking on the responsibility for the growth, wellness, and prosperity of the environment and the many communities that rely on us. Over the many decades we've been around, we've watched the world shift and change, And our success to this point has come, in part, from our constant desire to grow and innovate. The adoption of newer, more efficient, and more effective technologies in the name of progress is a part of who we are and why we're here to stay. Here at Aboitiz Power, we greatly respect the value and importance of the environment. Cleanergy, our brand for renewable energy sources, has become a significant part of our operations, and we continue to be on the lookout for opportunities in the renewable energy space while seeking ways to preserve and enrich the environment. We've long since recognized the incredible potential for kindness, compassion, and community in the millions of lives we've touched over our centuries-long journey. We take great pride in the care and service we provide to these people. To see their communities thriving is our greatest joy and success. Aboitiz Power, driving change for a better world.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to EMX 2023, the Electricity Market Exchanges brought to you by the Philippine Electricity Market Corporation. We are here live at the Crowne Plaza, Manila Galleria for the much-anticipated exchange and discussion of the industry's most significant topics, updates, and developments. Gatherings like these are an opportunity to encourage each other to be part of our digital community, where we can easily share our ideas, knowledge, and camaraderie as part of the WESM family. Share, like, and follow our PEMC social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. The EMX will begin in a few minutes. In the meantime, here are a few reminders. Please make sure to register at the ballroom entrance. As a safety precaution, we remind all our attendees to please comply with the minimum public health and safety requirements. If possible, please keep your masks on at all times. Coffee stations are open at the sides of the ballroom. Feel free to fix yourself a cup or two while waiting for the program to begin. As we all start up a morning filled with a series of informative topics and presentations among experts from various sectors of the electric power industry here and abroad, we encourage your active participation in our discussions. Feel free to submit your questions through our virtual Q&A platform, Slido, by accessing the website via QR code placed on your respective tables. Once again, good morning and welcome to EMX 2023. Our program will begin in a few minutes.
Avoidance Power has been driving change for a better world. It's been a long and challenging road, but with every step forward, we've made sure the businesses and communities we serve have been able to grow and flourish. We envision a world where vibrant communities have built their homes and businesses in a thriving environment. To make that world a reality, we are committed to serving the people by providing a reliable power supply at a reasonable and competitive price, while taking on the responsibility for the growth, wellness, and prosperity of the environment and the many communities that rely on us. Over the many decades we've been around, we've watched the world shift and change, and our success to this point has come, in part, from our constant desire to grow and innovate. The adoption of newer, more efficient, and more effective technologies in the name of progress is a part of who we are and why we're here to stay. Here at Avoidance Power, we greatly respect the value and importance of the environment. Cleanergy, our brand for renewable energy sources, has become a significant part of our operations, and we continue to be on the lookout for opportunities in the renewable energy space while seeking ways to preserve and enrich the environment. We've long since recognized the incredible potential for kindness, compassion, and community in the millions of lives we've touched over our centuries-long journey. We take great pride in the care and service we provide to these people. To see their communities thriving is our greatest joy and success. Avoidance Power, driving change for a better world. Avoidance Power has been driving change for a better world. It's been a long and challenging road, but with every step forward, we've made sure the businesses and communities we serve have been able to grow and flourish. We envision a world where vibrant communities have built their homes and businesses in a thriving environment. To make that world a reality, We are committed to serving the people by providing a reliable power supply at a reasonable and competitive price, while taking on the responsibility for the growth, wellness, and prosperity of the environment and the many communities that rely on us. Over the many decades we've been around, we've watched the world shift and change, and our success to this point has come, in part, from our constant desire to grow and innovate. The adoption of newer, more efficient, and more effective technologies in the name of progress is a part of who we are and why we're here to stay. Here at Aboitiz Power, we greatly respect the value and importance of the environment. Cleanergy, our brand for renewable energy sources, has become a significant part of our operations, and we continue to be on the lookout for opportunities in the renewable energy space while seeking ways to preserve and enrich the environment. We've long since recognized the incredible potential for kindness, compassion, and community in the millions of lives we've touched over our centuries-long journey. We take great pride in the care and service we provide to these people. To see their communities thriving is our greatest joy and success. Aboitiz Power, driving change for a better world. Aboitiz Power has been driving change for a better world. It's been a long and challenging road, but with every step forward, we've made sure the businesses and communities we serve have been able to grow and flourish. We envision a world where vibrant communities have built their homes and businesses in a thriving environment. To make that world a reality, we are committed to serving the people by providing a reliable power supply at a reasonable and competitive price, while taking on the responsibility for the growth, wellness, and prosperity of the environment and the many communities that rely on us. Over the many decades we've been around, we've watched the world shift and change, and our success to this point has come, in part, from our constant desire to grow and innovate. The adoption of newer, more efficient, and more effective technologies in the name of progress is a part of who we are and why we're here to stay. Here at Aboitiz Power, we greatly respect the value and importance of the environment. Cleanergy, our brand for renewable energy sources has become a significant part of our operations, and we continue to be on the lookout for opportunities in the renewable energy space while seeking ways to preserve and enrich the environment. We've long since recognized the incredible potential for kindness, compassion, and community in the millions of lives we've touched over our centuries-long journey. We take great pride in the care and service we provide to these people. To see their communities thriving is our greatest joy and success. A Boyd is power, driving change for a better world. A Boyd is power has been driving change for a better world. It's been a long and challenging road, but with every step forward, we've made sure the businesses and communities we serve have been able to grow and flourish. We envision a world where vibrant communities have built their homes and businesses in a thriving environment. To make that world a reality, we are committed to serving the people by providing a reliable power supply at a reasonable and competitive price, while taking on the responsibility for the growth, wellness, and prosperity of the environment and the many communities that rely on us. Over the many decades we've been around, we've watched the world shift and change, and our success to this point has come, in part, from our constant desire to grow and innovate. The adoption of newer, more efficient, and more effective technologies in the name of progress is a part of who we are and why we're here to stay. Here at A Boyd is Power, we greatly respect the value and importance of the environment. Cleanergy, our brand for renewable energy sources, has become a significant part of our operations, and we continue to be on the lookout for opportunities in the renewable energy space while seeking ways to preserve and enrich the environment. We've long since recognized the incredible potential for kindness, compassion, and community in the millions of lives we've touched over our centuries-long journey. We take great pride in the care and service we provide to these people. To see their communities thriving is our greatest joy and success. A Boyd is power, driving change for a better world.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to EMX 2023, the Electricity Market Exchanges brought to you by the Philippine Electricity Market Corporation. We are here live at the Crowne Plaza, Manila Galleria for the much anticipated exchange and discussion of the industry's most significant topics, updates, and developments. Gatherings like these are an opportunity to encourage each other to be part of our digital community where we can easily share our ideas, knowledge, and camaraderie as part of the WESM family. Share, like, and follow our PEMC social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. The EMX will begin in a few minutes. In the meantime, here are a few reminders. Please make sure to register at the submit your questions through our virtual Q&A platform, Slido, by accessing the website via QR code placed on your respective tables. 2 minutes. We acknowledge the presence of Honorable Secretary Lotilla with the PEM Board Directors.
Okay. When they've settled down. Yes. Thank you. Kuya, ready yung music natin dapat nakaupo.
Ready dim lights are ready.
Okay. But change the tayo na. yung monogram. Okay. Wait lang. Paupuin lang natin yung last person.
Great and informative si Vanya.
A great and informative morning awaits us here at the EMX 2023. Today's event is made possible through PEMC's initiative to promote better appreciation and understanding of significant market development matters through healthy discussion and exchanges. For this year, our theme is EMX, Resiliency in a Dynamic Energy Market. As we officially begin this event, may we request everyone to please rise as we come together in prayer.
Lord God, source of life, none of us live for or because of ourselves. We all live as part of a community facing challenging and uncertain times. Perplexed by circumstances beyond our control or understanding, we rely on you for comfort and encouragement to further strengthen our faith. As we continue to fulfill our industry's mission following the global pandemic, we implore you to bless the work of our hands in sustaining and enhancing life, and to guide us to answer your calling towards the path for the common good. In the discussion that will take place this day, open our hearts and minds to sense the wisdom you have to share. May this time of gathering be blessed with your presence. May those who are present be blessed with your wisdom. May the organizations they represent be blessed as instruments of your love. All these we ask through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, and our Savior. Amen.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for showing up today for the Electricity Market Exchange 2023. I believe that we have all learned to appreciate again the importance of being truly present, of seeing the various facial expressions of the people we work with, the firm handshakes, and most of all, not having to check if our audio is working and if the presentation is visible, like right now. It is very heartwarming to see you all here, physically present, eager to reconnect with colleagues, friends, and together, we all learn about resiliency in a dynamic energy market. The first and the last time PEMC hosted the in-person EMX on the electricity derivatives market was in 2019. Back then, none of us had any idea that we would be in lockdown for the next 3 years. Despite that, however, in our desire to be able to further increase your appreciation and knowledge of the electricity market, we pivoted and conducted the succeeding EMX online as we tackled the retail market implementation in 2021 and the governance framework in the participation of battery energy storage system last year. The goal for the EMX has always been a value-adding activity to the conduct of the annual general membership meeting. However, with a robust and dynamic electricity market, we expect to have an independent standalone EMX event in the coming years, as the thirst for knowledge is unending and a 2-hour conference with the subject matter experts in one room is as fast as the blink of an eye. We have an exciting lineup for this year's EMX on resiliency in a dynamic energy market, headed by the keynote address of our esteemed Energy Secretary, Secretary Raphael Lotilla, followed by relevant presentations from no less than the Chairman of the Market Surveillance Committee, Attorney Dodi Aguila, the Vice President of First Gen, Mr. Vega, and the Managing Director of Quezon Power, Mr. Thiel. We are joined virtually by our guests from the California ISO, headed by their Executive Director, Mr. Hildebrandt, as they share their experience of the battery energy storage system. The pandemic has only proven that the electric power industry has the remarkable capacity to pivot and adapt to a drastically changing landscape. During the lockdown, groundbreaking industry milestones were launched, such as the Enhanced WESM Design and Operations, or the EWDO, and the WESM Mindanao. Emerging from the lockdown, we are looking forward to the completion of the Mindanao Visayas Interconnection Project, or the MVIP, and the commercial operations of the reserve market. The Philippine electricity power industry landscape is unstoppable, and we at the Philippine Electricity Market Corporation are glad to be at the center of it all in the governance of a truly dynamic energy market. On behalf of the hardworking men and women of Team PEMC, I wish you an electrifying morning of knowledge gained from today's presentations. Thank you all for your time and your attention. Now it is my great honor to introduce to you the keynote speaker of EMX 2023. He has served in government for more than 20 years in various capacities. Professor of Law in the University of the Philippines, Secretary at the National Economic and Development Authority, NEDA, under 3 presidents, and President and CEO of PSAM, besides sharing his expertise as legal consultant to several Senate presidents and senators. He is currently in his 2nd stint as the Secretary of Energy. He also served as Regional Program Director of a Regional Seas project funded by the Global Environment Facility, GEF, and implemented by the United Nations Development Program, UNDP. In the private sector, he was an independent director in several publicly listed conglomerates with diverse interests, including energy and the financial services. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you all to join me in welcoming our Energy Secretary, Honorable Raphael P.M. Lotilla.
Thank you, President Nidea. To the distinguished members of the board of the Philippine Electricity Market Corporation, led by Chair Abu Boto, and the members of the board of directors who are here. To our distinguished guests, participants from the power sector, and our event organizer, the PEMC, a pleasant morning to all of us. We are not strangers to the numerous challenges we face in the generation sector. These include, of course, the high fuel prices that we have witnessed since the outbreak of the Ukraine war, declining production of our indigenous natural gas, heavy reliance on fossil fuels, some aging power plants and plant outages, transmission congestion, delayed projects, extreme weather events due to climate change, and increased political tensions. These challenges highlight the urgent need for more energy resources to support our growing economy's power demand. If we are to realize the projections that by 2034 we will be among the Asia-Pacific's trillion-dollar economies, then we would need to provide the power that would fuel that growth. Amidst these difficulties, the electric power industry has shown remarkable resiliency and flexibility in overcoming adversities. This presents us with an excellent opportunity to keep growing, improving, and implementing new policies and programs in the power sector. By doing so, we can enhance the quality of life of our fellow Filipinos. To accelerate the growth of energy, including renewable energy in our country, several policies and programs have been launched. We are building on the strengths that have been initiated in the past, such as the competitive renewable energy zones, to assist RE developers in finding suitable locations for the plants, as well as for the conventional and other sources of power. The DOE also implemented the preferential dispatch to ensure and prioritize the dispatch of RE resources in the power grid and reduce greenhouse gas emissions, in addition to the must run or the must dispatch power sources under the RE law. Our goal of accelerating the growth of RE may be met with challenges imposed by the intermittent nature of variable RE. The increased penetration rate of renewable energy will require more ancillary services to support the reliability and safety of the grid. The implementation of the reserve market will provide us with an additional venue for procuring additional ancillary services to compensate for the lack of contracted firm reserves. Our target is to launch the commercial operations of the reserve market this year for the benefit of the whole electric power industry. Prior to that, the commencement of the reserve market trial operations program by IMAP would prepare all participants for a smooth and successful presentation of the reserve market. Our new policy providing for a framework for energy storage systems complements the reserve market and firm contracting of reserves in balancing the variability of RE to ensure the reliability and sustainability of power generation from renewable sources. Another significant development is the Mindanao-Visayas interconnection, which only was initially energized last March 2023 at a very much reduced capacity. The completion of the MVIP would allow the excess capacity of Mindanao up to 450 megawatts to be transmitted to Visayas and even to Luzon. The Western Mindanao officially commenced operations in January with the full cooperation and support of industry participants, stakeholders, and energy stakeholders. Western Mindanao, through the Western Mindanao plus the MVIP, is expected to improve the reliability and affordability of the electric power supply in the whole country. Soon, we will need to address retail competition and reserve and renewable energy market to also commence in Mindanao for the benefit of the Mindanao industry players. Meanwhile, to ensure that distribution utilities are well guided in contracting their power supply to captive customers, the DOE promulgated competitive selection process guidelines to provide a clear, transparent, and fair supply procurement, promoting competition and greater participation in the provision of adequate, least cost generation capacity to meet the demand in the captive market. We are in the process of revising the CSP to make it more streamlined and ensure quality, reliability, and sustainability of contracted power, all the while minimizing costs for consumers. The revised CSP will be released in the coming weeks, followed by issuances from the Energy Regulatory Commission and the National Electrification Administration. In addition to these initiatives, the DOE is exploring new promising technologies such as offshore wind, waste-to-energy, small modular nuclear reactor, ocean and tidal energy, as well as alternative fuels. These innovations can contribute to achieving our goal of a sustainable, affordable, reliable, and clean energy. They are in pursuit of the President's instructions for us to be more self-reliant and to diversify our sources of power. The DOE is also actively looking into future electricity markets, including the electricity derivatives market, to foster the development and innovation of the power sector. We have engaged data scientists to analyze the competitive behavior of Western participants using data science and artificial intelligence. As outlined in the Philippine Development Plan that was launched by the President earlier last year, this is pursuant to the desire to introduce game-changing measures. Let me just say that as far as promoting competitive behavior is concerned, we want this to be on a voluntary basis. But if needed, we will be firm in addressing anti-competitive behavior. So let's make sure that as we implement big data analysis and artificial intelligence, that as we move forward, we do not have any such anti-competitive behavior. Because if I do come across such, then it will force me to go back and review all previous behavior. But I am confident that you and all the other stakeholders are going to help us in moving forward in ensuring that the market in the Philippines will truly be competitive. The new tools are vital for identifying and mitigating any anti-competitive behavior, ensuring a highly competitive power sector that benefits consumers with lower energy costs. These are just a few examples of the initiatives and policies our government is implementing pursuant to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s instructions to ensure a level playing field for all that would attract not only foreign but domestic investors. We firmly believe that through partnerships with you, with the stakeholders, with other government agencies, and civil society, we can promote and stimulate the growth and development of the power industry for the betterment of our people. All the policies, projects, and programs I mentioned aim to improve and innovate our electricity market, ultimately achieving our goal of providing accessible, affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy for the country. However, none of this can be accomplished without the collaboration and active participation of all stakeholders, particularly private sector. It is crucial that we work together to realize our noble aspirations of empowering the electric power industry and fueling the continuous growth and development of our country. Your theme involves dynamism. And dynamism, while it denotes activity that and vigorous action, that must be directed towards making progress. We cannot simply be moving in place. It has to be towards a progressive direction. Our collaborations are the foundation of our resiliency and the key in achieving our mission. I look forward to the cooperation that we can build in the 2023 Energy Market Exchange. It has been many years since I was with you in starting the commercial operations of this market. Changes will continue to take place. We will continue to be adjusting to new technologies, to new circumstances, and to new ways of doing things. I look forward, therefore, to cooperation with you so that we can indeed move forward. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay tayong lahat.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for our keynote speaker, Honorable Raphael Lotilla, Department of Energy Secretary. May we request Secretary Lotilla to please remain on stage for a photo together with our guest speakers, presenters, Board of Directors, and PEMC management. For a photo with Secretary Lotilla on stage. Once again, may we ask our guest speakers, presenters, Board of Directors, and PEMC management for a photo with Secretary Lotilla on stage. May we give another round of applause to our Honorable Secretary Raphael Lotilla. As we move forward with our discussions, we encourage your active participation by sending your questions through our virtual Q&A platform Slido by accessing the website via QR code placed on your respective tables. Once again, we encourage your active participation by sending your questions through our virtual Q&A platform Slido by accessing the website via QR code placed on your respective tables. And so we begin with our very first presentation. To provide a market situationer which shall aid in setting our perspective on where we are right now in the WESM in terms of the generation sector, we proudly introduce the National Secretary and former Governor of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines, a member and Board of Trustees at the Philippine International Center for Conflict Resolution, and our Market Surveillance Committee Chairman, Attorney Dodi Aguila.
A pleasant day to everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's energy market exchanges. To the officers of PEMC, representatives of DOE, ERC, IMOP, and other stakeholders in the electric industry. I see Director Aranza still here. Magandang umaga po. On behalf of the Market Surveillance Committee, by the way, we have in attendance in person my two other colleagues, Engineer Verdi Villarreal and Engineer Art Escalante. I am pleased to share with you some highlights and updates on the assessment of the wholesale electricity spot market. As most of you are aware, the MSC is in the forefront of PEMC's market monitoring and assessment function. This is consistent with the MSC's role pursuant to the WESM rules and manuals. These are, among others, to monitor and assess the performance of the WESM, the ARCOA, and the activities conducted by WESM members, with the end in view of ensuring the market's effective functionality and overall efficiency. Second, to prepare and submit reports for apparent or suspected incidents of anti-competitive behavior or abuse of market power by any WESM participant or member. And to participate meaningfully in the policy and rule development process by reviewing WESM rules and manuals so that the improvements can be made thereon. 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic placed the world into a screaming halt. The Philippine economy continues to recover, and with it comes the need for a steady and dependable governance in the WESM. In view of this, the committee has regularly published its assessment and accomplishment reports to provide the public and, of course, the WESM members with information on market development and behavior, including all other activities undertaken by the committee in pursuit of its mandate. To start off, the MSC regularly monitors the capacity mix in the WESM in terms of generating resource types. Data shows that coal plants has continued to dominate the supply of capacity to the spot market. This is because of its base load characteristics. Coal plants hold the largest share at about 44% of total registered capacity. This is followed by natural gas at 15%, hydro at 12%, and oil-based plants at 11%. Looking at the profile of the plants, majority of the generating capacity in the market still comes from conventional plants. While this is the case, we have likewise seen a substantial growth in the participation of renewable energy resources, with the government encouraging these types of resources in accordance with the provisions of RA 9513, otherwise known as the Renewable Energy Act. As of May 2023, we have noted a total of 23,137 megawatts of installed capacities in the Philippines. In Luzon and Visayas, while Mindanao has 4,320 megawatts of installed capacity. We can further delineate registered capacity by looking into the capacity profile of our market to determine the capacities relative to outages, capacities not offered or nominated, preferential and non-scheduled capacities, must-run unit capacities, and finally, offered capacities. Throughout the years, MSC has noted that these capacities were affected by various incidents, resulting in high levels of capacities on outage, and some of the notable events are the following. The onslaught of Typhoon Odette in December of 2021, which caused the market to be placed under market suspension. That resulted in high market price outcomes and triggering the imposition of the secondary price cap. Several issuances of yellow and red alerts were noted in the year 2022, caused by, among others, damaged submarine cables and unavailability of transmission lines. Global events that affected the Philippine economy, such as the Russia-Ukraine war and the Indonesia coal export ban. These resulted to higher prices in the market because of higher operational costs on the part of affected generators. And lastly, lesser outages during the hot, dry season in compliance with DOE's policy of prohibiting outages during this time of the year, when demand is expected to be at its peak. In terms of demand, the months of December to January of the cool, dry season recorded low levels of demand due to expected cooler temperature and the observance of long holidays. Incidentally, the highest demand recorded was in May 2022 at 14,358 megawatts. In 2003, we have likewise noted lower demand during the months of December to January of the cool, dry season, with the same reasons in 2022. Meanwhile, during the hot, dry season, significant incidents such as the declaration of yellow and red alert notices were noticed, especially in the months of April and May 2023. And MSC is again looking into this for further assessment. Rest assured that the committee is doing its part to ensure that the WESM's objective for a transparent and competitive electricity market is achieved. Based on the ages of existing power plants, we note that 224 out of the 321 generator resources have an age range of 0 to 20 years. These generators have an aggregate capacity of 10,625 megawatts, which is around 49% of the total WESM registered capacity as of 2022. The remaining demographic, which is the majority of the registered plants, is comprised of power plants with an age range of 20 years and above. In a study undertaken by the MSC, we found an interesting correlation between the ages of the plants vis-a-vis the occurrence of forced outages. This is the type of outage that usually affects resulting market prices. Moreover, the MSC has noted that despite the addition and increase in the level of registered capacities over the years, the annual average capacities on outage have also increased from previous years. As discussed earlier, the onslaught of typhoons also resulted in significant forced outages in 2022, with coal plants being noted to have consistently dominated the capacities on outage mix, heavily affecting the supply of power. For 2023, the MSC also noted the high levels of capacities on outage, but have all gone down during the hot, dry season, especially after the DOE had promulgated a prohibition for scheduled outages during this period. This is, of course, with the exception of hydro plants, which usually have limited water availability during this period anyway. Looking at the capacities on outages by type of outages, a huge chunk came from forced outages, consistent with the previous discussion. These are considered unforeseen and are subject to further evaluation and checking by our compliance committee through the Enforcement and Compliance Office. Meanwhile, planned and maintenance outages are normal and are coordinated, scheduled with the NGCP, our systems operator, through the GOMP and approved by the DOE. For 2023, we have likewise noted high levels of forced outages, followed by planned and maintenance outages that are likewise being monitored by the MSC. Going to the duration of forced outages that occurred in 2022, it was observed that middle-aged generating units, which are around 31 to 40 years in age, have had longer average forced outage days, equivalent to almost 4 months. Similarly, older plants aged from 71 to 80 years of age, which involve 7 units of hydro plants, had the same length of average forced outages days in 2022. These capacities are on top of the planned outages as approved under the GOMP. Considering the information that we have shared with you today, as shown on the screen, our month-on-month interactions between the effective supply, system demand, average prices, and supply margin for the year 2022, and of the early part of 2023. MSC has observed increases in the monthly average prices for periods where the market experienced relatively lower supply margin, which are attributable to the increase in capacities on outage, coupled with the effects of ramping and other technical limitations of our generators. For the past 3 years, we have noted a relatively thin supply margins, subsequently caused electricity prices to increase of up to 8,430 pesos per megawatt hour. We move on to MSC's activities in monitoring the newest participants in the WESM, those in the Mindanao region. On January 26, 2023, the WESM in Mindanao commenced, allowing our participants to take advantage of the benefits of the market. In the course of the committee's monitoring activities, we have observed price spikes caused by forced outages of coal and hydro plants that resulted in the dispatch of fast-acting higher price oil-based power plants, thereby increasing the market prices during the summer months. While the market is evolving and improving over the years, with continuous increase in the level of our registered capacities, with the entry of new power plants, there are still several challenges that we are currently facing. To name a few, these are the need for a reliable and secured source of electricity for Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao grids that will be able to supply power whenever needed, and at the same time ensuring that power rates are competitive for both consumers and investors. Second, the high dependence on base load power plants that utilize fossil fuels in its operations that may potentially be affected by global economic issues, as exemplified by the war between Russia and Ukraine and the coal export ban that was implemented by Indonesia. Aging demographic profile of plants, wherein majority of the coal power plants supplying about 9,000 megawatts in the systems are at the age of 1 to 30 years old, showing our big reliance on conventional and aging plants that may be prone to more maintenance outages. Fourth, increasing environment burden. The increasing environmental burden incurred by more consumption of energy. It has been shown that energy and environmental problems are closely related, since it is nearly impossible to produce, transport, or consume energy without some environmental impact. Likewise, energy derived from fossil fuels contributes significantly to global climate change, so that an increase in the energy consumption using these resources would result in negative effects to our environment. We are also faced with the depleting availability of indigenous resources. To date, the Malimpaya gas field remains to be a meaningful source of natural gas for the Philippines. But production levels are expected to decline from 2024 onwards. This will impact significant capacities in the WESM, as we have noted in 2022. Another challenge is to encourage additional generation investments. The market, several areas for potential exploration and investments, but these require meaningful efforts to encourage potential investors to come to the country. The market has to gain the confidence and trust of such investors by having a well-functioning market that establishes transparent and efficient price signals. As the governance arm of the WESM, PEMC will continue undertaking processes that will improve the experience of our market players and potential investors by providing accurate and timely information and data on the current condition of the market, by continuously improving market reports, participation in several information campaigns, and other streams of opportunity that may come the MSC's way to be of help to participants and potential investors. As the theme of this year's EMX, Resiliency in a Dynamic Energy Market, we look forward to a market that has an ability to anticipate and avoid any extreme and unexpected disruptions in the market, such as weather disturbances, natural calamities, which have caused most of the energy supply interruptions, intermittent supply of renewable energy, and even cyber attacks, which are rapidly increasing concerns not just domestically, but also globally. This resiliency will be achieved only through a collective effort on the part of the government, the governance arm, which is PEMC, and all market participants. To end this presentation, rest assured that your Market Surveillance Committee is committed to provide efficient monitoring and assessment of our market for the benefit of market participants and the market as a whole. On behalf of the Market Surveillance Committee, we have here Engineer Arthur Escalante, Engineer Ferdinand Villarreal, and online we have Engineer Christian Orias and Engineer Peter Wallace. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Attorney Aguila, our Market Surveillance Committee Chairman, for that insightful discussion. Our next presentation will be all about integrating battery energy storage in electric markets and operation in line with the recent promulgation of the DOE. To tell us more about this interesting topic, we are so honored to be joined by the Executive Director for Department of Market Monitoring at the California Independent System Operator, also known as CAISO. Joining us live from California, please welcome Dr. Eric Hildebrand.
Good morning, everybody. I'm very pleased and honored to be here this morning. And yeah, I'm very excited actually to be able to share our experience with battery storage in our systems. And as you'll see in our presentation, it's really just in the last 2 years, we've had about 4,000 megawatts of batteries come online in our system. So I'm able to share with you today our experience in the last 2 years with really large scale batteries and how those operate in conjunction with our markets. Next slide, please. Just a little background on the California Independent System Operator. You can see California, our system, our home system is in yellow on this chart. But one thing that we've done to integrate large-scale renewable energy over the last few years is to integrate with other balancing areas in the Western United States. So you can see all the different balancing areas here are now united into one operating system that's run by the California ISO. And you can see there it's more than doubled the footprint. So that would just be the first point I would make, is that you know, as a system relies more and more on different forms of renewable energy, actually, before we started installing batteries, the first thing we did was connect with other systems. And that's very important. Integrating with a larger system helps you balance out the different forms of renewable energy and manage the system. So that would just be a little background on that. But next slide, please. So California is one of the, as a state, is one of the most aggressive in terms of promoting renewable energy. And actually in 2022, we now relied on solar energy and wind connected to the grid to meet over 30% of our total load. So this chart here shows you in yellow, highlights the solar energy on our system. And actually, I would draw your attention then to the red bars indicate the amount of batteries on the amount of energy provided by batteries in 2022. And so you can see there, the batteries are already showing up as a very important source during those few hours from hour 18 to 22 when the sun goes down. And you can see there we still have very high demand. So those are really the critical hours that we are looking to batteries to really serve a critical role and store up the extra solar energy during the day and be able to discharge that in the 3 or 4 hours in the evening as the sun goes down. Next slide, please. This slide just shows you, again, very similar, but the dotted line on the bottom is what we call net load. And that's really the most important thing now that the system operator operates the grid to. And net load is the total system load and then subtracting solar and wind. So subtract the renewables, and that's the rest of the load that has to be met by dispatchable generation. So your conventional power plants, gas plants, as well as batteries. Next slide, please. So this slide shows the dotted line again shows the average net load during 2022. And the colored lines show our prices. So you can see now that the prices in our system really follow the net load rather than the system load. And I'm guessing in your system, in most electric systems, prices peak, with, and really are correlated with the total system load. But we have so much renewable energy that our prices are now driven by this totally different pattern, which we refer to as net load. The other thing this chart shows is, again, during hours 18 through 22, when solar drops off, those are the critical hours. The prices are the highest, and that's when we're relying on batteries to be charged up and ready to discharge to help meet our peak net load demand in those hours. Next slide, please. This slide again just highlights the growth of batteries over the last really 2 years. So highlighted there in aqua is the amount of batteries coming online. And again, you can see there, this is the total nameplate capacity, but a lot of that solar that's shown in yellow, that's not available during those key hours. So batteries, really, we already rely on batteries for more like 10% of our capacity during the critical hours as solar drops off. Next slide, please. This next slide shows the different types of capacity and the quantity that's in our generation queue. So these are facilities which are, have applied to be connected to the ISO grid. Now, not all of these projects will probably be completed, but this is a good indication of the amount and the type of new capacity that will be added. You can see here that in the future, we have really all the capacity that will come online. The new capacity is going to be either battery capacity, shown in the dark blue, or solar capacity combined with batteries, shown in the yellow. So again, we're just at the beginning of a big growth in battery and continued growth of solar. But it's really the combination of those two that's going to meet our reliability requirements, the solar combined with the batteries. Next slide, please. This slide, again, just looks back over the last few years to show you the tremendous growth in batteries. You can see we are already up to about 4,500 megawatts. And so this chart also shows by type. So
ilalagay ko lang saan.
the blue, can everybody hear? The blue bars show what we call standalone batteries. So those are just regular batteries by themselves. The yellow bars show what we call co-located resources. So that would be, for instance, a wind or a solar plant next to a battery. So with all of those resources, that sharing a common interconnection to the grid. And we do have a small category called hybrid. And again, those are solar typically and a battery combined, but those are modeled as one resource. So again, we're seeing about half the batteries are standalone, just batteries, and the other half are co-located or combined with renewable energy sources. In our markets, we have a really a design standard, which is that the batteries are designed to discharge for 4 hours. So in other words, if it's 100 megawatt, if it's going to qualify as a 100 megawatt battery, it needs to have 400 megawatts of battery storage so that it could operate at the 100 megawatts for 4 hours. So that's kind of the standard that we've set for our system. And that's driven by, again, I showed you during the net load, we really have about 3 or 4 hours that we need batteries to be available. So that's why we set that standard at 4 hour energy requirement. Next slide, please. The size of batteries, this is shown in this chart, and they really range widely. So on the far left of the chart, you can see we have a lot of small batteries. And more of these tend to be co-located. A lot of these tend to be co-located batteries or hybrids. So the smaller batteries oftentimes are located at, in the wind farms or solar farms. So they're oftentimes away from the grid. But the value of locating them there, there's a lot of space, and they can utilize the transmission that was built for the solar power. When the sun goes down and the battery's charged, it can utilize that same transmission to connect to the grid. On the other extreme, we have a lot of large batteries that have been located at the other end of the grid, actually in old power plant generating sites, or more so closer to the load area. So, and again, those tend to be the larger scale batteries because they can be located in kind of an industrial setting. So we have all sizes and all types of batteries, but their location on the transmission grid is important in terms of where they locate the batteries. Next slide, please. Okay, so we've really built a special model in our system to model batteries. So we really have separate bids for the battery to charge and discharge. So if it's a 100 megawatt battery, it bids from 0 to negative 100 it submits bids to charge, prices at which it wants to charge. And from 0 to 100 megawatts, it would submit bids to discharge. They also have different ramp rates. And the other dimension that we capture in our battery model, and it's an important one, is what's called the state of charge. So you have a minimum and a maximum generating capability or discharge and charge capability, but our software also tracks the state of charge. So it's how much energy it has in the battery. And that's very important to model and at times to constrain in order to make sure the battery is charged up for future intervals. And then finally, batteries may provide ancillary services in our market. That's important, and I'll show you that is an important source of revenue for batteries. And in fact, one thing that we have found is, I guess, the battery operators, the optimal, over the long term, the optimal pattern to utilize batteries is not to fully charge or discharge them every day. That, I guess, creates a lot of wear and tear on the battery. Instead, they provide a combination of energy and ancillary services. So they don't discharge fully, and instead, on most days, they're able to provide ancillary services instead of energy during some hours. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, good. Okay, so this chart shows, again, kind of reinforces what I've described. The solid blue line shows our prices, and I described how the prices have a shape, a very distinct shape. The dotted yellow line on the top are the bids to discharge. So you can see there that those are much higher, and they're really designed so that the batteries typically only discharge in the evening hours when the market LMPs or market prices get above those. And then you can see that the bids to charge the battery are submitted so that they try to charge during the day when prices are lowest and the solar output is the highest. And you can see there that on average, the batteries are usually charging during the middle of the day and then discharging for a few hours in the evening. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, this chart shows, these are averages. So I believe this was over in 2022. So you can see there we have over 4,000 megawatts of total maximum capacity. That's the solid line. And you can see there, so the yellow bars show on average how the fleet of batteries is charging during the day and then discharging toward the evening. And this, again, it's all based on the market prices that they're submitting and getting charged or discharged through the market. The other bars show the ancillary service and regulation capacity that they are providing. So in addition to providing energy, they provide ancillary services. And as I mentioned before, you can see here that the batteries are not charging every day and not just charging to their maximum every evening. That would create a lot of wear and tear on the batteries. And on a lot of days, the batteries aren't needed. The full output is not needed in the evening. So this is more, again, this is an average over the year. Next slide, please. This slide shows the source of revenue during 2021 and 2022. You can see there energy is over half of the net revenues or the profits, the operating profits of the batteries. But ancillary services, particularly regulation services, also constitute a significant source of revenue for the batteries. Next slide, please. The final point I want to make is that batteries, the market works very well most under average conditions, under typical conditions. That the batteries, they submit their bid prices, the market, they're efficiently charged and discharged in the market. But on a few critical days of the year, and for those, those are usually in September, in our hottest months, we have found that it's important for the grid operators to be able to manually intervene and set constraints to make sure that the batteries are charged up for those critical hours. And this chart just shows the red bars show that when we were in a system emergency. So these were 4 days last September when we were, in a critical system condition. The yellow line is the average, on average, how much batteries were charged up and able to provide. But the blue area shows that on these key days, the operators issued manual instructions or constraints to make sure the batteries were charged at a much higher level and then were available to start discharging during those hours shown in red. And you can see those on most of those days, the batteries were charged at a much higher level and started to discharge when we were in a critical system condition. Next slide, please. Okay, next slide, please. One more. We will skip. So go to the next slide, please. Okay. And actually the final slide, if I could, one more. Okay, this is my final slide. I'm going to wrap up here. And this is more from a capacity planning framework or perspective. And this is something California is changing. So we used to have, plan for capacity based on a rating, on your peak conditions, kind of 1 hour. But our new framework is really to look at each month as 24 different hours. So we call that the slice of day framework. And California has found that that's very important as we rely on solar and batteries in combination. It's very important to look at the more complete picture. And this slide shows how, you need, if you're going to build batteries in the that you plan on using when the sun goes down, as shown kind of in the top blue bars here, you do have to make sure you have enough extra capacity, extra solar or wind or renewable to charge those up during the day. So that's what this chart is showing. And this is the capacity planning framework, or which sets the requirements that we use in our market. So my final point would be, going forward, I think this is important. You do have to look at the system as a whole and whether you're going to have enough extra energy to actually charge those batteries up. And then finally, as I noted, you need market mechanisms and sometimes manual intervention to make sure that those batteries are in fact charged up on your critical days so that they're there for use. So that concludes my my presentation. And I want to just, thank you again for the opportunity. I look forward to questions later on. And if we don't get to all your questions today, I didn't put my contact information on here, but we're welcome. People are welcome to contact us if you have any information about batteries in our markets later on. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Eric Hildebrand, Executive Director of the Department of Market Monitoring at CAISO. As we move forward to the next presentation, once again, we encourage your active participation by sending your questions through our virtual Q&A platform, Slido, by accessing the website via QR code placed on your respective tables. Up next, let's talk about some updates on renewable energy, its recent enhancements and future innovations. To share his extensive knowledge on the subject is our speaker, who is currently the Vice President and Head of First Gen Corporation's Power Economics and Marketing Group. He has been directly involved with monitoring and advocating the proper implementation of the Electric Power Industry Reform Act of 2001. He leads a team responsible for electric power market industry research and quantitative analysis. Let us all welcome Mr. Carlos Lorenzo Vega for his presentation.
Okay, so to the dignitaries, the distinguished guests and participants of today's EMX, again, a pleasant, wonderful morning. So again, I'm Carlo Vega from First Gen. And permit me or allow me to share the next set of slides that would like to discuss or share our thoughts on two main things. One is our observations on the market, some thoughts on our participation, particularly focusing on us being a renewable energy provider or our clean and renewable portfolio. The second theme would basically be on some future developments that we look forward to, both on the market and at the same time internal initiatives and projects. So permit me to jump in already. So as a preamble, I'd like to start with, Yeah, okay. So I'd like to start with the renewable energy law and basically see how the passage of the RE law paved the way for RE development. And in this slide, I wanted to show how, since its passage, we've seen installed generating capacity increase significantly to meet our demand that was continuously growing, and at the same time show how our renewable energy capacity increased over that same period. It's curious, however, that in that same period, after the passage of the RE law, the share of RE compared to the total actually decreased. And at First Gen, we'd like to say that we continue to do our part in expanding the share of renewables in the total capacity by expanding our geothermal, hydro, solar, and wind capacities alongside, and I think this is worth mentioning, alongside our natural gas projects. We mention this because we think that achieving the future of the decarbonized and net zero future that we're looking at is impossible if we do not have a transition, an energy transition plan. And so with our decision to look at renewables and natural gas to go to that and achieve that future, so basically we're saying through this portfolio, we've generated 21%. Last year, we've generated 21% of the total kilowatt hours. Can you please move? And I think the point that we wanted to make was that all these years, throughout these years, the operations of WESM played a vital role in our growth. I think that's the main point, that from 2006, anyway, I'm 2 slides down already. So from 2006 when Luzon, WESM started, to 2010 when Visayas started, and just recently when Mindanao started, we would like to thank the leadership of the various stakeholders for seeing WESM change progressively. One more slide, please. Progressively, so that it performs its key roles of this central dispatching and price signaling. Sorry, it's just not moving. Okay, so basically the preamble is that we look forward to we are expanding our portfolio of clean and renewable, and we thank WESM to enable this. Now, okay. So as I was saying, from 2006 all the way to today, we have participated in the WESM, and we've witnessed how it has changed progressively, performing its role as sending out clear price signals. It has significantly changed, and central dispatching. And it is through this experience that we'd like to share some of our thoughts, remarks as you may, on some aspects, particularly 3 aspects of the WESM. And the first one that we'd like to talk about is the implementation of the 5-minute interval. This was implemented right smack during the pandemic. And what we'd like to say is that this is truly a welcome development for us. Just one more. Okay. So this is just a comparison of a typical day when we were looking at 1-hour intervals and compare it with 5-minute intervals. And if you notice, you will see how the 1-minute interval prices tend to smooth out the actual supply and demand situation versus the 5-minute market, wherein the actual sensitivity of supply and demand are now reflected in more granular fashion. And we say that this is a welcome development because, number one, it really shows, or it tries to create more accurate price signals. And because of the 5-minute market, you will see in the next slide that it also corrected how we dispatch and operate our plants. The 1-hour markets enabled us, or did not give us the ability to match the target dispatch because, again, it smooths it out. It smoothens it out. Whereas the 5-minute market enables generators, the granularity basically allows us to reflect the actual dispatch versus the RT. And so I think we'd like to, again, thank IMOP, the WESM, for enabling this because, again, I reference this to WESM's key role of central dispatching and price signaling. This is truly a good development for us, particularly as a clean and renewable generation company, because it helps us improve. And, in general, it makes WESM more efficient as a market. Now, the second aspect that we'd like to share on, our thoughts on, would be I think the Honorable Secretary mentioned this in his speech. We're very thankful for IMOP's implementation of the department circular last January. And you will see here an actual, a comparison when we finally switched our geothermals and hydros to, particularly the geothermals, to priority dispatch. It improved our generators, basically our geothermal plants' daily operations. When, geothermals are designed to run as flat as possible, the priority dispatch enabled us to do so. And the third aspect that we'd like to share our thoughts on would be on the pricing conditions. I borrowed so that I will not be charged with copying. I took this from the IMOP, and this is a report on their pricing conditions. And what is the main point I wanted to make? The main point is that if you divide the intervals into pricing conditions, abnormal versus normal, you will see that the light blue are normal pricing conditions. And in terms of statistics, they said that in this particular period, it was 67%. But that also meant that 33%, or 1/3, 1 out of 3 intervals, experienced price distortions because of either, majority of them would be the orange, the orange, and the other blue line, which refer to PSMs that are congestion related. And number 2, the blue one would refer to secondary price cap, abnormal pricing conditions. And so in the first 2 aspects that we've shared, we're saying our experience is that we've witnessed the WESM improve performing its function as in terms of giving out accurate price signals and central dispatching. but it also shows that we're very optimistic with IMOP and WESM's improvement of these pricing conditions. We hope more and more that the abnormal pricing conditions caused by the secondary price cap and the congestion in instances will also come down furthermore in the future. So these are three aspects. And these three aspects, we wanted to take this with respect to the future developments, internally and market-wise, that we're looking forward to. So again, it was mentioned by the Honorable Secretary that these two developments are, in particular, are something that we really look forward to. The first one is the commercial operations of the RE market, the REM. And this will enable further expansion of our RE capacity because this now provides another venue for us to value the kilowatt hours coming from the renewable energy sources. And of course, as explained earlier, we will not be able to move towards that future if we do not have a robust co-optimization between ancillary and energy. The reserves market will enable this, especially if you look at what's about to come. And this is something that we anticipate. This is something that we anticipate to significantly change the landscape. GEP 1, GEP 2, and even I think the GEP round 3 will significantly bring, or will actually bring, the influx of RE. And so without the first two, I think the worry is that it will become more confusing and chaotic if we do not have the REMs and the co-optimization of reserves and the energy. So outside of this, permit me now to share some of our internal initiatives. And I'd like to focus on our geothermal projects. Now, first gen, through our pure RE company, the Energy Development Corporation, which is the largest geothermal player, we're looking at basically technologies. No, I would not like to say that it's a new technology, but basically within the next few years, there will be 90 megawatts, close to 90 megawatts of additional geothermal power plant capacity that will come from the binary technology. And so, again, binary geothermal systems is actually not new. The first installation of the binary geothermal power plant was in 1940 in Italy. And while it's not new around the world, in the Philippines, it's actually not utilized. And so we're looking at this to improve and increase the capacity of renewable power from our geothermal sites. And I wanted to mention 90 megawatts because geothermal today is the only baseload RE source. And 90 megawatts of geothermal capacity actually translates to 500 megawatts of solar. And so for us, we would like to pursue this project very aggressively because it basically uses waste heat and transform it into kilowatt hours. So the conventional way of using geothermal power is that we extract the heat of the earth, we separate the steam from the brine, and we inject the brine after using the steam to run the turbines. What binary technology basically does is that it uses the brine and some fluids to increase and add kilowatt hours or capacity to that geothermal system. And so I think these are some of our projects that we are hoping to get online very soon. And in addition to that, we're also looking at developing geothermal systems that enable developing projects outside or far from the volcanic sites that we usually do for conventional systems. And I think low-temp geothermal will also help us harness more power using lower temperatures. So conventional geothermal systems would use 250 and up, 250 degrees Celsius and up. But low temperature systems like this can actually produce kilowatt hours efficiently at 100 to 150. So again, while this is not earth-shaking technology, nor are these technologies new, we'd like to say that these are things that can be done here in the Philippines. We are not Germany, we're not California, but these are things that are low-hanging fruits that we think can be done and implemented here in the Philippines to add, again, moving towards that future. Now, the third one, and I think this was already discussed in detail, is that we're also looking at battery energy storage systems or storage systems in general. I will not discuss in detail this technology, but I would like to say that we are looking at this particular initiative not because of the technology, but because of the use, the various uses that it provides us. And from ancillary services, from providing frequency regulation, to basically peak shaving, and even price arbitrage. And I mentioned this in relation to the previous slides because geothermal, being an RE, a baseload RE source, will face challenges once GAP, as I mentioned, GAP and the variable RE comes in. We've experienced in Negros how solar was able to disrupt our baseload operations. And storage systems like this seem to be a very optimal way of developing additional kilowatt hours for an RE generator like us. And then lastly, what I wanted to share was that innovations and upcoming initiatives are not just on the source, but we'd also like to say that we are looking at harnessing AI and machine learning in order to optimize the way we operate, the way we participate in the WESM. And so I know this is, again, not earth-shattering, not new technology, but I think here in the Philippines, given the developments in the market, using data analytics to improve our price forecast, to improve the way we utilize, especially when the 5-minute market happened, we've started getting voluminous data. And without the use of AI and machine learning, we would be wasting the value of looking at that kind of data, that voluminous data. And so with this, I'd like to move to close by saying that FirstGen remains, we remain faithful to our commitment to decarbonizing our future. And these are just a list of projects. And just to run through them, we've recently acquired Casignan. There are geothermal projects down. That's the Bacman Unit 4, 5, and Managnong. And then Project Aya, as I mentioned, is not a battery energy storage system, but it's a bigger storage system. It's a pump storage hydro project that, again, will fit into the whole development of RE coming in and still meeting demand. And so we're aggressively pursuing this. And of course, the energy transition we feel that the energy transition will need natural gas-fired capacities like Santa Maria. And the recent development in our LNG terminal coming close to commercial operations is a welcome development. And lastly, of course, our contribution, while it's not as big as others, we are looking at close to 6,000 megawatts of solar and wind projects. And so again, we remain faithful and committed to decarbonizing and contributing to this decarbonization. And I wanted to end by showing you a different take on the word renewable. RE is not renewable when it is not new and utilizes new technology. And it is not renewable if you are not able to ask everybody to join and collaborate with you. So again, thank you very much. We continue to request and implore everyone to forge collaborative pathways to a decarbonized and regenerative future. So exactly on the dot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vega, Vice President and Head of Power Economics and Marketing Group at First Gen Corporation, for that thorough discussion. Before we head on to our last presentation this morning, we encourage your participation by sending your questions through our virtual Q&A platform, Slido, by accessing the website via QR code placed on your respective tables. Our final presenter is the Managing Director of Quezon Power Limited Co. and General Manager for the San Buenaventura Power Limited Co. He formerly managed Intergen assets in Mexico and worked as Intergen's Vice President in the Asia-Pacific region, United Kingdom, Netherlands, Turkey, and Egypt operating plants. Currently, he is the President of the American Chamber of Commerce in the Philippines, Board Director of the Philippine Independent Power Producers Association Incorporated, and member of the Makati Business Development Council. Please welcome Mr. Frank Thill to discuss Quezon Power's ammonia co-firing.
Thanks very much for that great introduction. Very pleasant morning to everyone here. First of all, my thanks to WESM and PEMC for inviting me to speak today. The energy transition has an overarching goal. The energy transition is thinking about reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And at the forefront of that effort is renewable energy. But then we have to also consider what's going to happen to the conventional power plants and how can we contribute to the energy transition by reducing greenhouse gas emissions. To that extent, there are a couple of fuels, I call them alternative fuels, that are being talked about a lot these days. First one is hydrogen. Not a new element, but a new fuel per se. And the second one is ammonia. And ammonia can be considered both a fuel or an energy carrier. In our case, Quezon Power, we chose to consider ammonia for a coal-firing project to try and integrate that into our existing facility. Ammonia coal-firing is not new. Ammonia coal-firing has been tested in Japan and Korea. There are test facilities running between 1 and 3 megawatts. So it's not new. But what is new is an aspirational goal that we have of coal-firing up to 20% of our capacity using ammonia. I'll have some details on that later on in the presentation. May I have the next slide, please? This is a little bit difficult to read. I realize it's a bit busy, but let me tell you a little bit about who we are. I represent the ECO Group. We are an operation and maintenance company with a base in Thailand. We have a very diversified portfolio, over 6,000 megawatts of operating assets and some in construction. We do development as well. We have solar facility, wind, we have combined cycles, we have onshore and offshore wind, onshore in Australia, offshore in Taiwan. We have one of the largest combined cycles in Korea. And something that is interesting, we run a 20 megawatt equivalent fuel cell running on hydrogen in Korea. It's been commercial for about 1.5 years now. Talking about alternative fuels, one of our facilities in the States, the Linden Cogen facility, recently completed a test where they blend hydrogen into the natural gas that is being used in the facility successfully. We run the unit for 30 days, no problem. 10% hydrogen blended into the natural gas. So we're not strangers to alternative fuels, but we are new to the ammonia as a fuel market. This is something entirely different for us. May I have the next slide, please? This is a picture of our current site here in the Philippines. Incidentally, this is not a Photoshop picture. This is the way our power plant looks on any given day of the week. A lot of people think that coal-fired plants should be pictured only in black and white photos with dark stuff coming out of the stacks. That is not the case. You know, we run a very clean project. We're about 120 kilometers to the east of Manila on the seashore. It's a very isolated site, very pristine, very beautiful. We've been in that location for 25 years already. May I have the next slide? So a little bit about our projects. First of all, up is Quezon Power. Quezon Power is a 500 megawatt pulverized coal, subcritical technology. It has been around since, actually we went commercial in May 2000, so we're coming up on 23 years of operation. This facility is owned 100% by the Eco Group out of Thailand. And we're running on Indonesian coal. As you probably remember from the photograph before, we have a dedicated port facility, so we take a Panamax-sized vessel every couple of weeks to bring coal to our facility. The second one is the San Buenaventura Power Project. This is SBPL. It's a 500 megawatt pulverized coal, supercritical coal technology. Incidentally, a lot of people ask the question, what's the difference between subcritical and supercritical? It's only about higher pressures and temperatures in the cycle, therefore you're producing more power with less emissions. So a little more efficiency on the supercritical versus the subcritical. San Buenaventura went commercial in September 2019. So it's a fairly recent addition to our portfolio. It's a joint venture between the Eco Group of Thailand and Meralcogen. This is an affiliate of Meralco, the distribution utility here in the country. We're fully contracted to Meralco. Both plants, the entire capacity of both plants is sold to Meralco. We own a 31.5-kilometer double circuit transmission line, and we connect at the Tayaba substation. Next slide, please. So talking about ammonia co-firing, this is an aspirational goal, as I mentioned at the beginning of the discussion. Our goal is to basically co-fire 20% ammonia in our existing facility in order to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, carbon emissions. We're trying to support our company's effort to mitigate the intensity of emissions by 10% by 2030. To that effect, we signed a three-party agreement last December 13. That agreement was signed by ECO, our home office, QPL project, and Doosan, a Korean company. The responsibilities are well defined. Doosan is going to be doing the boiler modification package. They are going to be developing all the systems engineering associated with the ability of conveying ammonia from the storage tank to the vaporizers and over to the boiler. QPL has the responsibility of making sure that we can secure enough ammonia to support this project. We also have to modify our unloading facilities. We have to convey the ammonia from the unloading facility all the way to the storage tanks. There was a site survey done by Doosan, and I have a slide later on that will show you, what we're looking to do in this regards. May I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So this is a three-part effort. First of all is Doosan, and they do have a timeline to try and complete their part of the project. They're in the process of doing systems engineering, developing the engineering behind what it will take to actually burn the ammonia in our boiler, what it will take in order to make the modifications in the boiler that may be required in order to co-fire the ammonia. So there's a feasibility study going on the way right now. Doosan has a test facility. They have a 1 megawatt test facility, and they're going to revamp that up to 3 megawatts, and they're going to obviously learn quite a bit from that before they translate that into the engineering package. We contracted on our side, QPL, with a company called Black & Beach. I think most of you folks may be familiar with them. They're basically the owner's engineer. They're the ones helping us source the ammonia, helping us figure out how to deliver the ammonia to the site, how to unload the ammonia, and then how to convey the ammonia from the delivery point to the storage tanks. We also engage, and this is something very important. I think most of you that are familiar with power plant operation understand that ammonia can be highly toxic and corrosive. So we have to be very careful. We're going to be handling large amounts of ammonia. We need to ensure that it's done safely. We have an operator on the plant. We need to make sure our operator feels comfortable handling the ammonia, especially in the volumes that we're thinking about bringing over. And we also need to make sure that our neighboring communities are protected. Our power plant is remote, but we do have neighbors. So we have to ensure that their health is not going to be impacted. So we're being very careful about that. And we have contracted with a very reputable company to help us do a very detailed risk assessment to make sure that the volumes of ammonia that we're thinking of bringing to the site are not going to have an impact, a negative impact, that is, on the community or on our operator. May I have the next slide? This is a major piece of engineering work. I kid you not. This is not an easy thing. This is not an easy project. I wish it was, but it's not. It takes a lot of know-how. It takes a lot of engineering. It takes a lot of thinking. We are going to have to modify the boiler quite a bit. Our company in Doosan are looking at all the modifications that will be required. On the boiler proper, we're going to have to modify our burners. In order to inject ammonia, we have to have new burners. We're also going to have to put penetrations on the boiler that we don't have right now. We're going to have to change fans. We're going to have to change mills. We're going to have to do a lot of work in addition to thinking about how do we bring the ammonia to the site, how do we unload it, how do we convey it. So quite a bit of engineering behind this. It's not an easy project. It's a very complicated project, but I believe we have the right people involved with Doosan Engineering. I think we also have a very good company in Black & Beach. So I think we have the confidence that we'll be able to manage this as we go forward. May I have the next slide? Some of these things are a little difficult to see, but basically what we're looking at, we're going to have storage tanks. So as the ammonia comes into the site, we're going to have to unload it, convey it to the storage tanks. From the storage tanks, we're going to have to transfer it to the vaporizers. Ammonia doesn't burn easily, I have to tell you that. It requires quite a bit of work behind this, so we're going to have to heat it up, we're going to have to vaporize it, and then we're going to have to convey it to the boiler, where it will be injected in through the nozzles that we have and the burners, and then it will be hopefully burned, and we'll be able to reduce an equivalent amount of greenhouse gas emissions as a result, because we will be cutting back on our coal consumption as a result of that. So a lot of work, a lot of things need to happen in order for this project to be successful. May I have the next slide? This is a little difficult to see. I apologize for that. I thought the slides were going to come out a little bit clearly than they are, but what you're looking at, the box on the left-hand side of the picture, that's the location of the new storage tanks. We're going to have two very massive storage tanks. We're going to have transfer pumps. We're going to have piping going on. The green line is the piping going all the way to the boiler. The red line is the incoming ammonia coming from the unloading facility to the storage tanks. Very large footprint. This is something that requires quite a bit of land. The area where the tanks are currently shown is where we're storing ash. So in the future, I'm going to have to find another place to store the ash if the tanks are actually going to go in this location. A lot of work, a lot of equipment. Very challenging project, but we're also pretty excited about seeing some of this thing going forward. Next slide. I apologize again, the slides are not very clear, but this is intended to show you what QPL will be responsible for. We have to go figure out where to source the ammonia. We have to figure out how to transport the ammonia to the site, how to unload the ammonia, how to convey it to the storage tank. And then we'll interface with Doosan at that point. So quite a bit of work on our side as well. May I have the next slide? Let me conclude with the following. We have a number of challenges ahead. As I mentioned, the system design details are going to be very, very strict. We're going to be trying to co-fire a fluid that is toxic and corrosive. So we have to be very careful that we do that properly. Where do we source the ammonia? There's not a lot of manufacturing of ammonia in industrial quantities here in the Philippines. It's probably going to have to come from overseas. I'm actually heading down to Australia this Saturday to evaluate plants that are making ammonia and hydrogen in Australia, and hopefully we'll be able to find a source of ammonia coming in here. Risk assessment. I mentioned we have to be very careful. We're going to be handling a very dangerous fluid. We have to be sure that it's done properly, that we protect our operator, but more so that we protect our community. We have been in our community for 23 years. We're considered great neighbors. We don't want to impact our community in a negative way. But we understand that we have a drive to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, so we need to move forward and try to see how we can balance all those things out. One of the things that I want to leave with you is the regulatory framework and the financing for something like this. There's not a lot in the regulatory framework right now in the Philippines for hydrogen or ammonia. If you go look at the Philippine Development Plan, I'll challenge you to find any mention of hydrogen or ammonia in there at this point. I don't think it's in there yet, but maybe in the future it could be. What are other countries doing? Other countries are providing production tax credits, they're providing grants, they're providing subsidies. I'm not advocating for that necessarily in the Philippines, but what I'm saying is the regulatory framework needs to be perhaps revised to consider the fact that in the future we may be looking at hydrogen and ammonia co-firing in our conventional plants in order to make sure that we can continue to operate and at the same time contribute to the reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. Pretty exciting time. Looking forward to the Q&A later on in case anybody may have any questions about the details associated with what we're trying to do. In the meantime, I thank you for your attention. Stay tuned, more to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thill, for a very interesting discussion on our final presentation for this year's EMX. Before we begin our open forum, here's a special invitation from one of our PEM Board of Directors, Mr. Jess Aranza. Join Jess Aranza and Juan Ponce Enrile as they discuss the latest issues and events dito sa Bayan ni Juan, which airs live at SMNI News Channel 39 and 43 every Saturday, 7:30 to 9:30 a.m. in Mega Manila Digital TV. All questions will only be entertained through our virtual Q&A platform, Slido. QR codes are printed on your respective tables, and we encourage your participation in our discussion. Once again, we will only be entertaining through our virtual Q&A platform, Slido. QR codes are printed on your respective tables, and we encourage your participation in our discussions. May we call back on stage our presenters, Attorney Dodi Aguila, Mr. Carlo Vega, and Mr. Frank Thill, together with Ms. Luningning Baltazar of the DOE, and our representatives from CAISO, Dr. Eric Hildebrandt, Ms. Amelia Blank, and Mr. Adam Swadley, who are joining us online, together with Engineer Ferdinand Villarreal, Market Surveillance Committee member. May we all request to have you on stage. May we all call on stage again our presenters, Attorney Dodi Aguila, Mr. Carlo Vega, and Mr. Frank Thill, together with Ms. Luningning Baltazar of the DOE, our representatives from CAISO, Dr. Eric Hildebrandt, Ms. Amelia Blank, and Mr. Adam Swadley online, together with Engineer Ferdinand Villarreal, our Market Surveillance Committee member. May we all request to have you on stage. To help us facilitate our open forum is Ms. Ira Lee Correctico, PEMC's Market Analysis Division Manager.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So we welcome you to this EMX panel discussion. I am Ira Lee Correctico from PEMC Market Assessment Department, and I will be your moderator for this morning. And I am honored to be joined by our panelists for today. To start off, we have the chairman of the Market Surveillance Committee. We have Attorney Dodi Aguila here with us. And also together with him, we have Engineer Ferdinand Villarreal, member of the Market Surveillance Committee. And from the Department of Energy, we have Assistant Director Luningning Baltasar. We are honored to have you here, ma'am. And representing our generation sector, we have Mr. Carlo Vega, Vice President of First Gen, and Mr. Frank Thiel, Managing Director of Quezon Power. And lastly, joining us in this discussion all the way from California, USA, we have Mr. Eric Hildebrand, Executive Director of the California Independent System Operator. And also we have Amelia Blanc, a Manager of Market Monitoring and Reporting in CAISO, and also Adam Swadley, Senior Advisor also from CAISO. Hi, Eric, Amelia, and Adam. Good evening there to you guys in California. All right, to start off, the 2023 EMX aims to focus on the dynamic characteristics of the WESM by highlighting the innovations and enhancements implemented in recent years, as well as those that may be implemented in the near future by our generation sector. These recent enhancements have contributed to achieving the delivery of reliable and cost-effective electricity to our grid users and also our consumers. These were also the main topics of the presentations made earlier. All right, so before we go straight to the questions, so just a reminder to everyone, and to better manage and document the Q&A, we will only address questions submitted through Slido with the correct format of company short name _question. The reason for the inclusion of the company short name is so we can better understand the context of your question. Also, questions that we weren't able to address or discuss today will be provided in the EMX highlights to those who accomplish the PEMC Transactional Survey or the PTS. All right, I think we are now all set and ready to go straight to the first question submitted through Slido. Can we shut? This is from Alter Power Digos Solar Incorporated. How is the concept of resiliency addressed in the context of the dynamic energy market? Again, how is the concept of resiliency addressed in the context of the dynamic energy market? Maybe we could start with the Market Surveillance Committee, Attorney Aguila. I understand that you've initially or partially answered this question a while ago during your presentation, but would you like, sir, to expound your thoughts on this and share with the panel?
As I've, good morning ulit. As I've mentioned a while ago, transparency and constant interaction and communication between the regulators, the governance arms, PEMC, and the various governance committees will surely address this challenge. Because, and of course, looking into the experiences in foreign jurisdictions is very important. In that way, the leaders of the WESM are kept abreast of developments, and this can easily be transformed into policies, corrections in the WESM rules and manuals to address the requirements of the present situations that will be arising. So that is how I will answer the question, Ira. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Attorney Aguila. Maybe Engineer Ferdinand Villarreal, would you like to share your thoughts on this?
regarding resiliency. I would like to share my experience from my previous job at NEA. And at NEA, we have this department which caters to resiliency, the disaster risk reduction management department. And wherein we require the electric cooperatives to provide vulnerability risk assessment on their facilities, and then come up with the emergency restoration plan, and then the mitigation plan required by DOE. So all of those, if they comply with those requirements, they will be given a fund to restore damaged facilities in case of calamities. And that solves the financial requirement of the cooperative. But for the labor, we do have a task force kapatid then up to right now, wherein those cooperatives which were not did not incur damage in their facilities are being summoned or requested to provide assistance to those cooperative which were damaged by calamities or typhoon. And this is in collaboration also with the ILRECA and private DU. Even private DUs join the task force kapatid in helping the electric cooperatives restore their facilities. And another agency that I'm involved with is the IIEE, wherein we have this committee wherein I was tasked to be the chairman of the Philippine Electrical Code, wherein we came up with this code, safety code, wherein the basic wind speed requirement in constructing the facilities or the lines be followed as required by ERC and DOE. And right now we are on the maximum wind speed of 300 kilometers per hour requirement on the eastern side of the Philippines due to Yolanda. And lastly, we also came up in this electrical code. It embodies the RA 11361, the anti-obstruction of power line, wherein here we can see the requirement in clearances of vegetation clearances and some structures that might damage the line. So that's my exposure in the resiliency program in the Philippines.
Thank you so much. Yes, Mr. Frank.
Thanks. May I offer a comment as a generator on resiliency? You know, to me as a generator, resiliency it's a three-pronged approach. First of all, I need to ensure that I have adequate fuel supplies on site at all times. I think during the course of this morning discussion, somebody mentioned the fact that from time to time, geopolitical issues across the world have an impact on fuel. The other is sometimes governments decide to curtail the exportation of fuel. So in order to ensure that we are resilient and can supply the power that is expected, we keep very adequate supplies of fuel at the site. So when Indonesia banned the export of fuel, we were not impacted because we have very adequate supplies in our facility. The second thing is, you know, we do a lot of maintenance in our power plant. We do scheduled maintenance, but more so we rely pretty heavily on predictive maintenance. We try to stay ahead of the game rather than wait and do breakdown maintenance. We do a lot of predictive maintenance. So that's the second component of that three-fork approach. And the third thing, which is really critical, is training and retraining our operators. We're blessed with the fact that we have 2 full-fledged simulators in our facilities, so our operators can train and retrain all the time. And the reason we do that is because we want to prepare them for any eventuality. Something happens, we get affected by a weather phenomenon, the grid has a problem, our operators will know how to react. So that is what resiliency means to me as a generator.
Thanks, Frank. How about Mr. Carlos Vega on the generator side?
I'd like to second the comment from Mr. Thiel that resiliency from a generation standpoint is really the rate of response to something that changes, and so the ability to be resilient in our power plants as well as the systems that support this market will be crucial. So I think the question is how important is it? It's very important, especially as we go towards a more granular market. Thank you. Thank you. So that's just it. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Mr. Carlos. Maybe we can hear from the perspective of the policy-making body from the DOE, Director Ning.
Thank you, Ira, for that question. So, having heard all the responses, I'd like to encapsulate everything. So, from as defined, the resiliency can be defined that we immediately go back or restore the system from a disruptive event. And in the case of the market, what we want is to restore immediately to the normal market processes. And that is when generators and the trading participants would be able to offer as usual their capacity and recover their costs, their marginal costs at the very least. So with that, having our lessons learned from I think the typhoon was Yolanda, when there was a significant, prolonged market suspension at that time, and this affects not only large generators, but I think some transmission facilities, but as well as the distribution utilities. What would be crucial is for all of these actors to be ready, such that when they were able to go back to their normal operation, the market is ready also to sustain the normal market operation. So that would be I think, from the perspective of the Department of Energy.
Thank you so much, Director Ning. So maybe we could ask our guests from California, maybe they have a different take on this. Either Eric, Amelia, or Adam, your thoughts on this one?
Great question. Great question. And I agree with all the prior answers. Can you still hear me?
Hi, Adam. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So I think that shows that resiliency has a lot of different dimensions. It means different things, from an engineering and market perspective, from a grid operator and market perspective. I think it's important to have market incentives, set up ahead of time, and that can make it clear what the obligations are and the rules, when an emergency or something does happen for generators. And then you need to have the pricing right, like the other speakers mentioned. You want to make sure the prices provide a strong incentive for generators to be available. And I think that's the framework. But I think, as I tried to mention too, there's always a role then on top of that from operator to take manual actions. But we view those as not taking the place of the market, but complementing the market or supplementing it, or kind of filling in some gaps in the market. I gave the example of batteries, but there's some examples like that. So we really, again, the market structure and incentives is the foundation. And then on top of that, you want to have some manual actions that complement the market rather than are a substitute for that.
Thank you so much, Eric. Maybe Adam or Amelia would like to add to that. All right, so thank you so much. So we can proceed with the next question for this one. All right, this is a question from Meralco. How did electricity spot markets in other jurisdictions address the impact on supply-demand conditions and prices of battery energy storage system ability to quickly change from So to quickly change from charging to discharging from one interval to another. Again, this is a question from Meralco. How did electricity spot markets in other jurisdictions address the impact on supply-demand conditions and prices of battery energy storage system ability to change from charging to discharging from one interval to another? I think this question is directly to our guest from Kaiso. Eric, would you?
Hi, good morning.
Yes, Adam, yes.
Hi, yes. So I think, you know, in response to that question, the movements that we have seen from battery storage resources have not necessarily had, you know, negative impacts from their ability to move between charging and discharging. The movements of the battery storage resources have been in response actually to grid conditions and market dispatch and market optimization. So, you know, in many regards, they've actually sort of been beneficial, and their flexibility has been beneficial. You know, we see a lot of charging at times when there is excess solar production, very low or sometimes negative prices, and the discharging, you know, again, for longer periods of time over the peak hours of the day. So, you know, as far as addressing any kind of impacts on supply and demand or pricing as a result of charging, I would say that that's not really something that has been an issue. It's been more in response to market conditions that the storage resources have operated.
Thank you so much, Adam, for sharing your experience with California. Eric or Adam, would you like to add? Or sorry, Eric and Amelia. All right. So maybe from our panelists, would you like to comment on the experience from California? All right. So maybe we could proceed with the next question for this discussion. Okay. So while waiting for our questions, again, a reminder for our market participants, you can submit your comments through Slido. Just simply scan the QR code located on your respective tables. All right, this is from the DOE. So what is the possible effect to the WESM of the implementation of reserve market in different aspects, both technical and economic? Again, what is the possible effects to the WESM of the implementation of the reserve market in different aspects, both technical or economic? For this question, maybe we can hear the thoughts from our generation sector, both the first gen and QPPL, in terms of your respective preparation and foreseen effects to you as a market player.
Well, I think as mentioned in my presentation earlier, we look forward to the co-optimization of reserves and energy, mainly because we feel that it will improve the way price signals are sent out to generators like us and even to end users. Because I think the co-optimization will basically tell us how we should value the reserves and energy as they serve their needs on a more granular fashion. It will be a better guide for us, basically. And hopefully the bugs have already been worked out, but it's something that we look forward to because it will improve further the market efficiency of WESM. That's it.
Thanks, Carlos. Frank, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think the reserve market implementation will be very welcome. I think in most markets where you have a reserve market, especially when you begin to bring in more renewable energy, the variability of the renewable energy becomes a bit of a challenge. So having a reserve market, a strong reserve market, I think is going to help mitigate any concerns associated with that. So I think it's a great idea. We're looking forward to seeing that happen, and maybe there'll be an opportunity for some of us to play in that market as well.
Thank you so much, Frank and Carlos. From the Market Surveillance Committee, would you like to add to that on the possible effects of to the WESM of the implementation of the reserve market?
I believe that the purpose here is efficiency And when you have an efficient market with full knowledge of information, then there is a better play among the participants that could lead to reasonable, if not lower prices. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Attorney Dodi. Okay, we could go to the next question. This is again from the DOE. How will the co-optimization of energy and reserves in the WESM and the reserve market lower the cost of electricity? Again, how will the co-optimization of energy and reserves in the WESM and the reserve market lower the cost of electricity? Anyone from the panelists would like to share? Yes.
I guess there's no guarantee that it will immediately lower the cost. But as I've mentioned, the co-optimization will send out the price signals that would in turn be interpreted properly by the market and bring in the right response to such signals. It is till then that we can expect that the market will get the most reasonable and cost-efficient prices. So I think it's not co-optimization on reserves and energy equals low prices immediately. So I feel that it will churn out the corrected price signals, and by doing so, by sending out the right price signals, the market mechanisms will come into play, and then therefore bring the right response to that.
Thank you so much, Carlos. How about the thoughts or perspective from California? How do you think this optimization of energy and reserves and the reserves market lower the cost of electricity? Would you like to share your thoughts on that, Eric?
Yeah, so well, we've had co-optimization for I think over 10 years now. So we do view that as a very fundamental part of the market, and probably one of the first things that you want to implement in terms of in achieving extra efficiencies in an integrated market, especially I understand you're expanding your grid, you're integrating new areas, and that's a big source of efficiency for us. One area will have extra operating reserves, and they're able to share that throughout the system. So I think co-optimization combined with integrating more areas into your grid, those two actually go hand in hand, and those are some of the fundamental, the biggest things you could do to add efficiency to the system.
Thank you so much, Eric, for sharing your experience in California. So maybe we could proceed with the next question. This is from Anda. Are there rules already for battery storage facility? Again, from Anda. Are there rules already for battery energy storage facility? I believe Assistant Director Luningning Matlasan can answer this question. As I recall, the DOE promulgated department circular regarding this. Would you like to share it?
Yeah. Thank you. So currently, I think the market operator is in the stage of developing the proposal for rules change as provided in our policy. Soon we'll be expecting their submission to the rules change committee, and that would be the basis for the specific guidelines on how the batteries would converge into the market. So please expect that, and soon we'll be conducting the consultation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We'll look forward to that public consultation for that. All right, so can we proceed with the next question, please? This is a question from PEMC, and I think this is for Kaiso. If standalone, are they treated as generator or load or ESS, and why? I think this question is referring to battery energy storage system. So if standalone, are they treated as a generator or load or ESS, and why?
So we we really have a special model for batteries. and it's more like a generator, but it's a generator that can have either positive or negative generation. And that's kind of the starting point. But then we added another dimension, a third dimension, which is the state of charge. So it's like a conventional generator that can go positive or negative. And then it has a state of charge. And that's important to model or have in your software because, again, that determines how much energy that is going to be able to provide or absorb in the, in the hours that looking forward. So I think you would run in trying to model it as separately as a load and a generator. So we definitely developed, a different model, more based on the generator model than anything else.
Thanks, Eric. So just a quick question. I think this question is for Adam, as you've shared a while ago regarding charging and discharging. So do you have any idea on the levelized cost of energy for batteries? And if yes, how much is the levelized cost of energy for batteries? Adam?
I apologize. Yep. Apologize. I don't have that information at hand at the moment. We have prepared some statistics on of revenue for batteries, revenue per kilowatt, but I do not have the numbers on levelized cost of energy for battery storage.
All right. Thank you, Adam. So just a follow-up question, but this is for the DOE, Ma'am Ning. So does the DOE have intentions, or do you have in your pipeline of activities a possible issuance or promulgation of certain rules on the treatment of battery energy storage system in the WESM?
Actually, we have promulgated a guiding framework for the treatment of batteries in the WESM. So that would be the basis of the market operator in proposing the changes to the WESM rules. So if I'm not mistaken, we have identified 3 or 4 categories or of batteries, wherein I think we have the integrated, the standalone. Each applied for a conventional and non-conventional technology. So the proposed rules change should be able to adjust to the requirements of the general framework. And then after that, we will review the proposal once the PEM board submitted to us to ensure that these are already in line with the framework. I forgot the DC number, but probably I can share a copy of the policy to you, Ira, so that you can send it to the one who asked the question. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So we'll look forward for the copy of that circular. Okay, next question. We can proceed with the next question. This is still from PEMC. Are battery energy storage system application more prevalent in generation, transmission, distribution, or utilization sectors? Again, are battery energy storage system application more prevalent in generation, transmission, distribution, or utilization sectors? I believe this question is intended for our guest from CAISO. Eric, Amelia, or Adam?
So I would say generation. We have, there are microgrids and some batteries, distributed throughout the system. Those are relatively small right now. So at this point, the batteries are being installed, by really from a generator or developer perspective, rather than smaller applications. That may change in the future, especially if we get electrification of the transportation sector. Then the idea is and the projections are that it would become economic for people behind the grid, off the grid, to start installing more batteries to charge their car, because the economics charge up their batteries when it's cheap, and then charge up their transportation. And if that happens, when that happens, then we think there'll be some effort to aggregate those batteries into a grid resource, so that an aggregation of small batteries, behind the meter, distributed, could then be aggregated and be essentially a demand response resource for the ISO system. But right now, batteries are by and large being developed, as generation sources.
Yes, Attorney Dodi Aguilar from the Market Surveillance.
Yes, I'd like to address this question to our friends in California. Because there was talk about the price of battery. May we be given an insight on how the prices of electricity generated from batteries compared to those generated by conventional power plants in California?
I think, I guess that's not the comparison that is being made here, or that's not the basis on which batteries are being developed. Batteries in California, they're very costly, and they're being developed really for the capacity, to provide capacity and energy for just a few hours of the day. So, in a straight energy market, basically all they're making, you could do the analysis, the only money they make is the difference between the lowest prices of the day and the highest prices of the day. And while, those revenues can add up over the course of the year, at least in our market, that's not enough to, make batteries economic. You have to look at the capacity and operating reserve and the reliability benefits of batteries. So just on straight energy arbitrage, as we call it, so just charging during the day and discharging at other times, or charging at night and discharging during the day, perhaps in your system. The economics of that are totally dependent on your prices, your price curve over the course of the day. But in our markets, that's a significant source of income, but it really takes more of a capacity payment to drive the installation of these batteries.
Thank you so much, Eric. Anyone from the panelists would like to comment on that? All right. So maybe we could proceed for one last question from. All right. So this is a question from the Energy Regulatory Commission. In the California market, how is the renewable energy treated? Are they price takers? Again, in the California market, how is the renewable energy treated? Are they price takers?
Wind and solar energy in our market, from a production aspect, they're price takers. So when they're producing energy, they're getting the market price. It is important, we have bids to basically decrement or curtail wind and solar. So there's times when we have so much wind or solar that the price would go negative. So we've actually had, we encourage wind and solar batteries to install the equipment to be able to respond when prices get so low, basically to curtail production. So they're price takers when they're producing, when prices are positive, but when prices get very low or negative, then, that's an important part of our market, is to be able to curtail them by price. Then that's where batteries play a role. Ideally, you don't want to curtail renewable energy if you don't have to. So the California ISO has tried to minimize curtailment by, again, batteries, using that extra energy to charge up when the price might be negative or zero, and also regionalization. So tying in with the bigger your grid is, when you have a lot of extra renewables in one area, if you can export that to another area, that avoids the need to curtail wind and solar, in another area where you would have a surplus.
Anyone from the panelists, MSC, DOE, from our generators, like that? All right. So there's one last question we received from Slido. Can we go over that and then before we wrap up this discussion? Again, just a reminder to everyone, so all the submitted questions will be addressed even after the panel discussion, and you will be provided answers to that questions once you accomplished or completed the PEMC transactional survey. So, yeah. So we have a question from PEI. What can be the negative effects of an ammonia-fired plant in the environment, and what are the safeguards that can be done to prevent these negative effects? Again, what can be the negative effects of an ammonia-fired plant in the environment, and what are the safeguards that can be done to prevent these negative effects? Frank, would you like to?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, obviously, if coal-fired ammonia is intended to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, so if the intent is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by implementing ammonia, environmentally wise, you're not affecting the environment, you're actually providing a benefit to the environment. I mentioned during the presentation, though, that ammonia, like any other fuel, has its pros and cons. Ammonia is toxic and corrosive. So the way to mitigate the risk associated with that, we've taken the path of ensuring that we do a very detailed risk assessment, make sure not only that the systems are engineered properly, they're well built, but that also we have the operational procedures that we need to put in place in order to ensure that we can handle the ammonia safely. Ammonia as a commodity has been used widely across the world, and there's quite a bit of experience on that. There's not as much experience, large volumes being used as a coal-firing mode, but if you put the right engineering behind it, you build it accurate in a proper way, and then you have the procedures that you need, you can mitigate the risk associated with that. It's a foolproof, I don't think anybody can say anything is foolproof nowadays. It's never been, but we will do and we'll ensure that we can mitigate as much as we possible the risk associated with that. So identifying the risk up front, knowing how to deal with them, I think is key to minimizing any potential negative impact.
Thank you so much, Frank. Again, any comments from the panelists on that? From the Market Surveillance Committee, DOE? All right. Okay. I guess that's it for this year's EMX. Let me conclude this discussion by thanking all of our panelists here today for sharing your excellent or interesting insights on the resiliency and onto the topic and the questions that were raised and asked today. Again, thank you very much thank you very much to our panelists. And again, this is Ira Lee Correctico from PEMC Market Assessment Department.
Thank you also.
Thank you very much to all our panelists, Attorney Dodi Aguila, Engineer Ferdinand Villarreal, Mr. Carlos Lorenzo Vega, Mr. Frank Thill, Ms. Ningning Baltazar, Mr. Eric Hildebrand, Ms. Amelia Blank, Mr. Adam Swadley, and to our facilitator, Ms. Ira Lee Correctico, for that very meaningful discussion and exchange of concepts on our industry's most significant topics. May we also request the following: President Nadea, Chief Lainez, and Chair Noel to join our guests on stage for a group photo. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all give them a round of applause. EMX 2023 has almost come to an end. To officially close our forum, please welcome a multi-awarded, recognized, and notable contributor in the electric power industry with over 40 years of experience in all sectors covering generation, transmission, distribution, and supply. He is our very own PEMC Chief Governance Officer. A big hand to Mr. Fortunato Lainez.
Thank you very much for that very kind introduction. So magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. First, we would like to thank you for joining us in this year's electricity market exchanges. It has been a while since we've done this very important event face-to-face. The significance of this show is how we, as an industry, along with the economy, have markedly recovered from a disastrous worldwide pandemic. We thank our speakers who discuss important topics today, most especially to Secretary Popo Lotilla, who, as we all know, is a very busy man. We also thank our colleagues from CAISO who joined us online from California. If there is anything we learned from the pandemic, it is that technology has removed all barriers for sharing of information. The discussions on the participation of battery energy storage systems, or BESS or BESS, in the California electricity market have provided us with an overview on how this relatively new technology in our jurisdiction may aid in our operations, especially on those instances where we need immediate augmentation of demand or supply in the system when abrupt, unforeseen circumstances arise. Indeed, we see huge potential on the participation of this technology, which is currently being considered by Western participants, both generators and distribution utilities, and even the end users. The groundwork is underway, and we look forward to this being another reliable source of power. The innovations considered by the market participants that are geared towards providing cleaner but reliable and efficient electricity sources are highly commendable. First-gen Corporation's presentation on geothermal generation, even in low temperature sites, and SPPL and QPPL's discussion on its exploration on the use of ammonia with careful consideration of its environmental impact are groundbreaking and will bring power generation in the Philippines to unexplored territory. We welcome these ideas and we are ready to provide assistance as WESM's governance body in helping realize these visions into reality. On behalf of the Philippine Electricity Market Corporation, we wish you have a good day and an even better second half of the year. We are looking forward to seeing you again in Davao for the WCO Summit in October. Until then, let us continue our exchanges on our electronic platforms through training sessions that we offer, online meetings, and by following, sharing, and liking PEMC's social media pages. Safe travels, everyone. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Atoy Reyes. As we come to an end, here's a little teaser on PEMC's next event. WCO Summit happening in Davao soon. And this officially concludes EMX 2023. Thank you for joining us today at the Electricity Market Exchanges here at the Crowne Plaza Manila Galleria. Buffet lunch is available at our banquet tables at the ballroom foyer and side hallways. Our ushers will guide you. A gentle reminder for everyone to please answer the PEMC transactional survey, which may also be found in the QR codes on your tables. We also request everyone to please clear out the ballroom immediately after lunch in preparation for the 2023 PEMC Annual General Membership Meeting happening this afternoon. For the AGMM registrants and attendees, please return for the event registration at 1:30 in the afternoon. Once again, thank you for joining us and have a great day ahead.